My sister committed bank fraud to rob me, but my parents blamed me for reporting her. So, I told them, next time she breaks the law, call the cops. I'm Jack, a 30-year-old man, and anyone who knows me would tell you that I've been living alone since the age of 18. I paid for my own college, worked my tail off, and never asked my parents for assistance. But evidently that doesn't mean I can live my life in peace. No, it simply means I am the family problem solution by default. It all began when my mother called me out of nowhere. My mother, Carol, no longer initiates a conversation. She's not the type of mother that calls to ask about your day or what you ate for lunch. She calls, it means something is wrong and she needs me to repair it. So, when her name came up, I knew it wasn't going to be good. I responded, and she rushed right into awkward small talk, which is not her thing. Hey Jack, how's work? Still doing finance stuff? She inquired, as if she hadn't ignored my job description for the last decade. I played along out of curiosity. Yeah, Mom? I'm still doing finance. What's up? That is when she dropped it. Your sister is in trouble. Now, I'd like to say I was astonished, but I wasn't. My sister Karen, a 27-year-old woman, has a history of causing havoc and expecting others to clean up. Her messes haven't just been little inconveniences throughout the years. They've become full-fledged disasters that always seem to fall on my shoulders. Take the time she stole my car without my permission just to smash it while texting. She contacted me in a panic, sobbing because she didn't know what to do. And like an idiot, I dropped everything to aid her. I dealt with the insurance, paid the deductible, and even let her off the hook for the damage she caused because she promised she would never do it again. But she did. Or the time she persuaded me to co-sign for her first apartment since she simply needed a little help getting started. 3 months later, she stopped paying rent, avoided the landlord, and left me to deal with the consequences. I spent months attempting to repair my credit while she moved back home with our parents and pretended it was no big issue. Not only does she make mistakes, but she is never held accountable. Every time she makes a mistake, someone, usually me, needs to jump in to correct it while she plays the victim. And the worst part? She doesn't even express gratitude. It's as if she believes the world owes her a safety net. So when my mother called to tell me Karen was in danger, I didn't worry or become concerned. I was tired of being dragged into her mess, of always being the one who had to face the consequences of her carelessness. To be honest, I was astonished it had taken so long for something huge to happen. I sighed, fearing what I was about to hear. What kind of trouble? I inquired. I didn't ask because I wanted to help. I asked because I wanted to know how horrible this one would be. Then she struck me with it. Karen had accumulated $43,500 in debt. $40,000. I had to repeat that in my brain simply to get it. How does one reach that point? Apparently, she had spent money she didn't have again. This time, however, she owed more than just credit card companies. She'd borrowed money from some unscrupulous folks, the kind you don't just ignore as the bills build up. And now they were after her. And my mother's clever solution to the mess? Of course it's me. Why wouldn't it be? In her eyes, I was the one with a solid career, the responsible sibling, the man who could always be relied on to fix the unfixable. It didn't matter that Karen made mistakes. That was not the issue. The problem was that I didn't hurry in to help her. You need to help her, she continued, as if my job as the family ATM was already determined. I sat there for a second, allowing it to sink in. I inquired, how exactly can I help? You've done so well for yourself, Jack. You can pay it off for her, she remarked casually, as if she were inviting me to stop by and get some takeout. I let out a quick laugh, not because it was humorous, but because I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Mom, I didn't borrow that money. Why should this be my responsibility? I'm not paying anything. The stillness that followed felt weighty, as if she was contemplating the fact that I had simply declined. Then she snapped, going into full guilt mode. She's your sister. Family helps each other. Do you want her to get hurt? Is that what you want? Her statements were quick, almost frantic, as if she couldn't believe I wasn't instantly leaping in to help Karen. It was not a request, but an allegation, as if my refusal was the true issue, not Karen's decisions. I took a big breath, hoping not to lose it. Mom, I've helped her before. Multiple times. And what does she do? Blow it all on designer bags, fancy vacations, and God knows what else. She doesn't take responsibility for anything because you and Dad have always bailed her out. I'm not doing it this time. However, it appears that logic did not register. She's struggling, Jack, she said back. She's not like you. She's not strong enough to handle this. Struggling? I asked again. She's reckless. She spends money she doesn't have, and now she's in deep with some shady people. And instead of dealing with it herself, she's expecting me to swoop in and clean up her mess again. She's your sister, Mom snapped. Family looks out for each other. No, Mom, I replied, my voice firm. Families don't take advantage of each other. This isn't me turning my back on Karen. This is me refusing to enable her bad decisions. She needs to grow up and face the consequences for once. Mom was not having it. Do you want her to get hurt, Jack? Do you want that on your conscience? Look, I'm not heartless. I do not want anything awful to happen to Karen. But let's be honest, she's an adult. A 27-year-old adult who understood exactly what she was getting herself into when she borrowed the money. That's exactly what I told my mother, but she wouldn't listen. She's not as strong as you, Jack, she said. You've always had it together and she hasn't. You can afford to help her. It's the least you can do after all we've done for you. I responded. Done for me? Like what? Making me pay rent the minute I turned 18? Refusing to help with my college tuition? Yeah, thanks for all that support, Mom. She fell silent for a moment, but then she returned swinging. If you don't help, we'll have no choice but to cut you off. Do you want that? I couldn't help laughing. Cut me off from what? You don't support me. I've been on my own for over a decade. Your threats don't work on me. With that, I hung up. After that day, they all went silent. And while I wish I could tell you that was the end of it, it was only the beginning. The silence did not last long. I believe I misjudged my mother's determination when she wanted anything. After I shut her and my father down, they changed gears. If the direct approach didn't work, they planned to guilt me into surrender. And when I say they went all out, I mean it. Initially, it consisted of just simple texts. Messages like this: I just don't understand how you can let this happen to your sister. Then, as the days passed, they became more dramatic. Do you know the kind of people Karen is dealing with? They're dangerous, Jack. I can't sleep at night worrying about her. I disregarded them at first because I simply didn't have the energy to deal with the manipulation, but they did not stop. Mom, on the other hand, went above and beyond with her voice messages. And let me tell you, she has this ability at sounding as if she is holding back tears when she isn't. Jack, she stated in one, Karen might not make it out of this if you don't help. I don't think I can live with myself if something happens to her. It felt like a master class in guilt tripping. If there were trophies for this, she'd be a 3-time champion by now. Then my father, Edward, decided to get in. He's normally a background player in these family dramas, but not this time. He left me a voicemail that started off calmly enough. Hey Jack, just calling to check in. But suddenly things shifted. Look, I know your mom can come on a bit strong, but this is serious. Karen's in deep and we can't fix this without you. You've always been the strong one, the dependable one. Don't let us down now. That remark, the dependable one, man, it irritated me. I've spent my entire life being the dependable one, and it's only gained me more responsibility and less gratitude. Dependable does not imply I'm a doormat. They apparently missed the memo. But the guilt avalanche did not end there. They decided to call in troops from their extended family from who knows where. I began hearing from my Uncle Greg, whom I had not spoken to in years. He called me out of nowhere as if we were closest buddies. Hey Jack. Long time no talk. How's life? I understood immediately why he was calling, but I let him ramble for a while before getting to the point. You know, family's important, he continued in that too sincere tone that people use when they're about to say something they know you'll dislike. And Karen's she's struggling. We all go through rough patches and sometimes we need a little help. Greg, please listen, I interrupted. Did my mom put you up to this? He laughed nervously as if I had caught him. Well, she might have mentioned it. I did not even let him finish. Look, I appreciate you reaching out, but I'm not paying Karen's debt. It's not my responsibility. You'd think that was the end of it, but no. The following day it was my Aunt Janice, then my cousin Emily. They all used the same script. Karen is in trouble. She needs assistance. I'm the only person who can help her. I don't see why they are all so concerned about Karen. It's not as if she were a defenseless child who made an honest mistake. She's a grown-up who spends money like it's Monopoly money and then appears surprised when the bill comes due. What made matters worse was that none of them even attempted to comprehend my perspective. When I stated that I wasn't willing to waste $43,500 on someone else's faults, they acted as if I was speaking a different language. But she's your sister, they'd argue, as if that would change my mind. The worst aspect, however, was the slander campaign. My mother, in her infinite wisdom, decided that if guilt-tripping me directly was ineffective, she'd try to turn the rest of the family against me. She began informing everyone in the family group chat, which I had abandoned long ago, that I was self-centered, ungrateful, and a total piece of trash. According to her, I had forgotten where I came from and was too preoccupied with my glamorous city life to worry about my family. I learned about it when my cousin Caleb called. He is one of the few family members with whom I get along, and he informed me about the situation. "Dude," he exclaimed, "Carol's been talking mad crap about you. She told Aunt Janice that you said Karen deserves whatever happens to her." I was enraged, not because I cared what Janice thought but because my mother was just lying about me to make herself look like the victim. I told Caleb the truth. I had never said anything like that and he believed me. "Yeah, I figured she was exaggerating," he said. "It's just messy, man. Messy does not even begin to describe it." But the true drama began when Karen decided to join the chaos herself. Until then she had been quiet. Not a single text message or phone call. I suspected she was embarrassed for once. It turns out she was just waiting to strike. And when she did, it was not subtle. She texted me one night and it was not a plea but an allegation. "I can't believe how selfish you're being, Jack. You know I'm in serious trouble and you're just sitting there doing nothing. You're supposed to be my brother." Selfish. That was funny coming from her. Karen's entire life has been a series of terrible decisions with someone else cleaning up the messes. I did not respond. Honestly, I didn't believe it deserved one. The next morning she increased the ante. "You have the money. Stop acting like it's such a big deal. Just pay it off and I'll pay you back when I can." That seemed like a decent solution, as if I were the unreasonable one for refusing to pay $43,500 to repair her mistake again. I did not bother to react. That, of course, did not go down well. She went into complete meltdown mode, sending me long rambling texts about how I was abandoning her and how I'd never understand what it's like to struggle. And then, just to make matters worse, she added, "Mom and Dad always said you'd come around eventually. Guess they were wrong." That line was different, not because it made me reconsider anything but because it reaffirmed what I had always believed. This wasn't just Karen acting recklessly. My parents had been hyping her up, convincing her that I would always be there to mend her disaster. I'd had enough by then. I stopped responding to texts, ignored phone calls, and focused only on my own life. Just when I thought they couldn't get any lower with the guilt trips, ambushes, and smear campaigns, I realized I had underestimated how far they were ready to go. My parents and Karen had played every card from their deck, or so I thought. It turned out they had one last card up their sleeve, and this one demolished any illusion I had about their not crossing the line. I received a call from my bank. Everything quickly devolved into total anarchy. The bank's fraud department notified me of questionable behavior on my account. Apparently, someone attempted to gain access to it using fake documentation that did not match their data. They attempted to modify my contact information and remove monies, but the system recognized the transaction as suspicious and stopped it. While the bank could not provide precise information, they did say that the documentation indicated it was someone close to me. Someone close to me. I didn't have to ask about it. I already knew. Karen. Who else might it be? The timing was far too convenient. She had just texted me about her urgent situation, and when I refused to give in, this happened. I was boiling inside. Forging documents to gain access to my account? That's not just desperate, it's criminal. I could not let this go. That evening, I drove straight to Karen's place, my rage hardly restrained. Of course I didn't call, since I'd had enough of being nice. She opened the door. "What are you doing here?" she demanded. "You tried to steal from me," I remarked, getting right to the point. Her countenance changed for a single second before she folded her arms. "I don't know what you're talking about." "The audacity, however," I replied. "Don't even try that, Karen. The bank flagged your little stunt. They told me someone forged documents to access my account. Do you even realize how serious that is?" She gave an exaggerated sigh as if I was being unduly dramatic. "Oh, relax, Jack. It's not like I actually got anything." I blinked, surprised by how easily she dismissed it. "Relax? Are you seriously trying to defend this by saying you failed? You tried to commit fraud, Karen. That's a crime." She shrugged, fully unconcerned. "What else was I supposed to do? You left me no choice. You refused to help me when I needed it." I couldn't believe what I heard. "No choice, Karen? You had every choice. You could have owned up to your mistakes, taken responsibility, and figured out how to fix this yourself. But instead, you thought stealing from me was the solution." She scowled. "Don't act all high and mighty. Mom and Dad said you'd never let me struggle. They told me you'd come around eventually if I pushed hard enough. I just had to wait for you to get over your little tantrum." I stood there shocked. Little tantrum. That wasn't frustration bubbling in my chest. It was outrage. It wasn't simply her being careless. This was years of my parents coddling her, feeding her delusions, and treating me as if I only existed to clean up her trash. Unbelievable, I said, to myself rather than to her. Do you even understand what you've done, Karen? You crossed a big line. She rolled her eyes, doubling down rather than retreating away. I'm not the villain here, Jack. You are. You've turned your back on your family. If you just helped me in the first place, none of this would have happened. That was it. The last straw. I took a long breath, not to remain calm, but to ensure that I did not say anything I would later regret. I'm done, I murmured, turning toward the door. But before I went, I gazed at her one last time. If you ever try something like this again, I won't just cut you off. I'll make sure the cops know exactly what you did. Grow up, Karen. You're not a child anymore. I did not wait for her response. I returned to my car, my mind racing. How did it become this bad? How had my family become so toxic that my own sister thought it was acceptable to take from me and blame me for it? I knew this was it. There was no going back from this. I needed to cut ties for good. But I knew it wouldn't be so straightforward. My folks were not about to let this go. Karen wasn't about to let this go. And if they thought I was going to roll over and accept it, they were mistaken. And I was correct. The next day my mother called. I did not pick up, but she did leave a voicemail. Jack, your sister told me what happened, she quipped. I can't believe you threatened her like that. She's struggling and instead of helping her, you're making things worse. You should be ashamed of yourself. I replayed the message 3 times to make sure I heard her correctly. Karen attempted to steal from me, and I somehow became the bad guy. It was so ludicrous that I didn't answer. What was the point? They were not going to see reason. But it didn't mean I was going to let it go. I called my bank and requested that they tighten the security on my account by implementing password changes, 2-factor authentication, and other measures. I wasn't going to give Karen, or anybody else, another chance to muck up my finances. For a few days, everything was quiet. Too quiet. But if there's one thing I've learned about my parents, it's that they won't take no for an answer. At least not the first 100 times. Don't tell me in the comments that I can just say no, since they don't get it. So, when I got home from work a few days later and saw their car parked in my driveway, I wasn't surprised. Yes, I was annoyed. Shocked? Not at all. I took a deep breath, parked behind them, and sat in my car for a minute to mentally prepare myself. I realized they weren't there for a casual conversation. They were not coming to apologize or make amends. No, it was going to be another round of guilt, manipulation, and emotional blackmail, and I was already fatigued just thinking about it. When I eventually got out of my car, my mother was waiting by the front door, appearing as if she was prepared to give a lecture. My father stared at the ground as if he'd rather be somewhere else. We need to talk, my mother remarked once I got close enough. I don't think we do, Mom. I think everything that needs to be said has already been said. Obviously she ignored me. This nonsense has gone on long enough. We're your parents. Karen is your sister. This isn't how families behave. I unlocked the door and went inside, fully expecting her to follow me. Of course she did, with Dad trailing her like a lost puppy. You're just going to walk away while we're talking to you? Mom asked. No. I'm going inside my house so I don't have to stand outside listening to more of your nonsense. I told you, if you're going to lecture me, you might as well do it where I'm comfortable. She didn't like my tone, but I honestly didn't mind. She'd already breached every barrier I tried to create, so why bother pretending I was fine with it? My mother wasted little time getting into her normal speech. Jack, you need to stop this stubbornness. Karen is struggling and it's your responsibility as her brother to help her. She's family. Yeah, family. I totally get it, I told them. So let me tell you something about family. Mom, family doesn't lie, steal, and manipulate to get what they want. Family doesn't expect one person to sacrifice everything while someone else coasts through life without consequences. So don't come in here lecturing me about family. My father eventually spoke up. This isn't about taking sides, Jack. It's about fixing things. You're the only one who can do that. I laughed bitterly. Fix things? You mean like paying off Karen's debt? Covering for her fraud attempt? Letting her get away with everything like she always does? Yeah, no thanks. I'm done fixing things for her. She's your sister, Mom explained, her voice rising. Do you know what it would do to her if something happened? How would you live with yourself? And how do you live with yourselves? I responded. You've spent her entire life enabling her, making excuses for her, and throwing me under the bus whenever it's convenient. You created this problem, not me. So don't you dare try to make me feel guilty for not cleaning up your mess. Mom's face became crimson. I thought she was about to burst. If you're not going to help, she replied, then we'll have no choice but to cut ties with you. No holidays, no family gatherings, nothing. I stared at her, trying to determine whether she thought that was a threat. Mom, I've been on my own my whole life. You cutting me off is like firing someone who already quit. She opened her mouth to argue, but Dad stopped her. Carol, stop. This isn't helping. He turned to me, his gaze softening. Jack, we just want what's best for everyone. Karen's made mistakes, sure, but she's still family. Can't you just meet us halfway? I couldn't take it anymore. Do you even hear yourselves? You're asking me to shell out $43,500 for someone else's mistakes? How is that halfway? What is Karen contributing to this so-called compromise? I could feel the wrath rising in my chest, and my thoughts were rushing faster than I could say. Every sacrifice I'd made, every time I'd stood up when they wouldn't, every instance of them putting Karen first, it all hit me at the same time. I pushed off the counter with methodical motions and proceeded to the door. My heart was hammering, but my face remained serene. No yelling. No arguing. They no longer deserved that much attention from me. I swung the door open wide and said, "Get out." My mother blinked, caught off guard. "Excuse me?" "Get out," I repeated. "This conversation is over. You're not going to guilt me into paying Karen's debt, and you're not going to manipulate me into feeling bad about it. So unless you have something productive to say, you can leave." Mom seemed to want to quarrel, but Dad gently grasped her arm. "Come on, Carol, let's go." She scowled at me as she walked by, her speech venomous. "You'll regret this, Jack. Mark my words." I closed the door behind them and stood there. It was quiet. Finally, silence. But the silence did not stay long. The entire issue had been bothering me, and against my better judgment, I resolved to find out what was going on with Karen. Perhaps it was curiosity. Or maybe I just wanted to know how far things had devolved. I contacted a mutual friend who still maintained in touch with her, thinking they might fill in the gaps. "What's going on with Karen?" I inquired. "I haven't heard anything since." "Well, you know," the friend responded without hesitation. "Oh, you haven't heard? It's bad. The people she owes money to aren't messing around. They trashed her car and completely destroyed it. Windows, tires, everything. She's freaking out, saying she doesn't feel safe." I should have felt sadness, concern, or anything. But instead I felt exhausted. She had put herself into this predicament, and now she was paying the price. Of course, I knew this would only entail greater pressure from my parents to intervene and save her. After a few days, I still had no direct contact from Karen or my parents, only silence. It seemed peculiar, like the quiet before the storm. And sure enough, the storm arrived. A letter from an attorney. When I opened it, I could not believe what I was reading. My parents threatened legal action, alleging that I had a moral obligation to support my family. They wanted me to repay Karen's debt, and they were eager to take me to court over it. I could not believe it. After everything they'd done, they were willing to go this far. Part of me wanted to chuckle at the absurdity of the situation, but largely I felt numb. This was no longer a family. It was a battleground. And I was finished battling. What shocked me was the sheer chutzpah of the situation. It was almost remarkable. Look how stupid this sounds. My own parents are threatening legal action because I refused to clean up Karen's $43,500 mess. It was as if they had abandoned any pretense of being a family in favor of open animosity. I didn't have to think about what to do next. The first phone call I made was to my lawyer, who fortunately has a good sense of humor. When I recounted the scenario, he chuckled and stated, "Jack, they don't have a leg to stand on. Let them file if they want. It'll get laughed out of court." Their threat did not come to fruition, but it was a reminder of how toxic they were, which strengthened my desire to avoid interaction. That they were willing to go that far was plenty for me. I realized I couldn't keep this door open much longer, even a crack. I'd been holding out a glimmer of optimism that we could somehow fix things. But this was the final straw. I blocked my parents' phone numbers the same day. No calls, messages, or voicemails. I went through my social media accounts and blocked them too. I repeated the process for Karen as well. If they were going to treat me like an enemy, I'd treat them as strangers. I also had to inform the extended family of what had happened. I knew my parents would twist the tale to make me look like the villain, and I was not going to let them get away with it. So, I called up my cousin Caleb, one of the few family members I trust, and explained everything. "Dude," Caleb replied when I finished explaining, "that's insane. They seriously tried to sue you?" "Not yet," I replied. but they're threatening to. I wanted to give you the heads up because I'm sure they're going to start spreading lies about me. Don't worry, Caleb said. I've got your back. And honestly, good for you for cutting them off. They sound toxic as hell. That conversation gave me the confidence to contact a few other relatives. Some were supportive, such as Caleb, but others were less so. My Aunt Janice, for example, was fully on Team Carol. Jack, they're your parents, she explained as if that pardoned all they'd done. You can't just walk away from them. Yes, I can, I replied firmly. And I have. They've crossed every line imaginable, and I'm not going to let them keep dragging me down. I knew Janice thought I was a disappointment. She said, family is family, Jack. You'll regret this someday. Maybe, I answered, not believing it. But for now I'm choosing peace. However, I only experienced tranquility for a few days. Of course, about a week after blocking them, I received a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I responded. Jack? My mother asked, her voice shrill and angry. You blocked me? I sighed, already regretting the decision to pick up. Yes, Mom. I blocked you. Why? Why would you do that? She asked as if the explanation wasn't so clear. Because I'm done, I explained. I'm done with the manipulation, the guilt trips, the lies, the demands. I'm done with all of it. She scoffed. You're being ridiculous. Do you really think you can just cut us out of your life like this? Yes, I answered simply. I can and I have. She attempted to argue, of course. She labeled me selfish, ungrateful, and cruel as usual. But I did not take the bait. I simply stated politely that I was not interested in continuing the conversation and hung up. I then blocked the number. Following that, I doubled down on the no-contact strategy. I instructed Caleb to notify me if my parents or Karen attempted to contact me through him, but otherwise I did not want to hear anything about them. For the most part, he respected it. However, he would occasionally slip in an update. Months passed, and the longer I went without communicating, the more I realized how much I'd missed out on without the constant turmoil. I had a lot more time and energy to devote to the things that were most important. Of course, there were still times of uncertainty. Every now and again, I would hear a voice in the back of my mind saying, what if they're right? What if you were being selfish? But then I'd recall everything they'd done, everything I'd been through, and the uncertainty would vanish. Up until today, I had no idea what had happened to Karen. I recently received another call from Caleb. Hey, just thought you'd want to know. Karen filed for bankruptcy. I paused for a moment to take in the news. Well, I thought to myself, maybe now she'll learn to take responsibility for her actions. Caleb responded, maybe, but we both know that was improbable. Karen wasn't exactly the sort to learn from her mistakes. My parents continued their slander campaign for a while, but it appeared to fizzle out. I suppose even their most ardent followers grew bored of hearing the same story over and over. By the time the holidays arrived, I was relieved because I wouldn't have to spend Christmas pretending everything was good when it wasn't. Instead, I spent the holidays with friends from my chosen family. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel as if I was treading lightly. I could just be myself, free of my parents' expectations and Karen's demands. It wasn't easy to cut them off. It was one of the most difficult decisions I'd ever made. But looking back, I know it was the right decision. Sometimes you have to distance yourself from poisonous people, even if they are relatives. And while not always easy, it is worthwhile. Caleb still sends me periodic updates, but I've made it obvious that I don't want to hear anything more. My parents were still attempting to recover their reputations when I last heard from them, and Karen was fighting to regain her feet following the bankruptcy. I wish I felt awful for them, but I don't. They made their decisions and now they are dealing with the consequences. As for me, I refuse to be a fool dancing on the strings held by all of those big shots. I'm going forward, and I've surrounded myself with individuals that genuinely care about me and respect my boundaries. I'm concentrating on my profession, interests, and personal happiness. And while I don't know what the future contains, I know this for sure. I'll never let anyone, family or not, bring me down again. Thank you for sticking with me over this wild adventure. If you have toxic people in your life, I hope this story inspires you to stand up for yourself. You deserve better.